Welcome back to 7 Moons Astrology. My name is Sarah Kirby, and today we are talking about Mercury retrograde in the signs of Gemini and Taurus. This is an exciting energy, and yes, I did say exciting. Everybody likes to fearmonger about it. I don't. I like this energy. It's starting today on May 10th, the day that I'm filming this. It will retrograde back into the sign of Taurus on May 23rd, and it will station to go direct on June 3rd. So this retrograde is moving from air to earth. Overall, this is about taking our ideas and transforming them in a way that helps us to make practical, real world, tangible changes. Earth. Ideas to reality. So I do think that this is a good one, and it's not making too many challenging aspects or anything like that along the way. So what is a retrograde to begin with? A retrograde is when a planet overtakes, or when Earth overtakes a planet in its orbit. And so from our perspective on Earth, the planet appears to be traveling backwards. Of course, this is just an optical illusion. It's not really moving backwards in its orbit. It's just a perspective shift from our position in the sky. Traditionally in astrology, when a planet is retrograde, it's said that its energy is weakened or interrupted, and it's usually moving really slowly, so that can have the same effect as well. Mercury is, by association to Gemini, about travel, commutes, planes, trains, bikes, and automobiles, which is why we classically see that, travel interruptions and delays are part of a Mercury retrograde. It's also about our minds and intellects, the way that we think and the way that we communicate, so you can find slip-ups in your speech, in your writing, details that were missed, and things that need to go, be corrected. Miscommunications are very, very common during Mercury retrograde, and especially because we have Jupiter in Aries around this same time, this could mean that those miscommunications turn into fights. Just warning you, try to stay cool, calm, and collected. But those things can be common with a Mercury retrograde as well. Feeling a bit distracted or out of sorts is another common experience. Now, Mercury is also the ruler of Virgo, so this does have a tendency to affect our work and our plans and our routines and our schedules, because that's what Virgo is about. And so we could find ourselves needing to replan, revisit, rework, and face and, confront delays, things not going the way that we originally planned. Now, the thing that I love about Mercury retrograde is that if you trust what is unfolding in front of you, you might find that things do work out for you much better than they would have before, but you have to not remain too attached to the way that you thought that they were supposed to go. So the timeline you thought things were supposed to happen in, just let it go. Roll with the punches, right? I'm not going to be one to say that if you get a flat tire, it benefited you, but who's to say that it stopped you from being in a place on the road that you shouldn't have been because of something that was going to happen? Just saying, if you look at it that way, it could add a brighter perspective to the mishaps and things that tend to go awry when Mercury is in retrograde. Tech issues can sometimes be common as well, losing projects, having to redo it, just all kinds of tech interference from that Gemini energy can be possible as well. Lies in the media is another one, so really don't believe anything you hear during this time. So that's what Mercury retrogrades are about at a high level. The other thing to share is that many people are born under a Mercury retrograde, and so they tend to find this energy as much more harmonious and beneficial. Excuse me. So those people, that's their native energy. So if you're one of those folks that says, I don't really notice that anything happens during Mercury retrograde, check your natal chart, because you might find that you were born under a Mercury retrograde and things tend to work out all right for you. So another general signification of Mercury retrograde is needing to break contracts. Gemini also is associated with commerce, trade, merchants. And so agreements and contracts that we make with other people can sometimes collapse, fall apart, need edits or changes around this time, which is another reason why astrologers traditionally advise that you don't make any of those contracts new during a Mercury retrograde, because typically what that means is that if not during the retrograde itself, later on when Mercury goes direct or in the next retrograde, things that you did during that previous retrograde would reveal their true colors, and you would have to face the problems that you missed during that time of the retrograde. Now, I think it's, if you got to sign a contract, if you got to do a deal, if you got to do something, don't freak out about it. You don't have to infuse it with negative energy. It's just a warning sign and a signal. The advice that I would give is to slow down and make sure you review all the details as thoroughly as you can. You might not be able to stop unexpected circumstances from coming up later on when Mercury goes direct, but at least you will have done your due diligence, paid attention to the details. That's that Virgo energy coming up again. So that would be my advice if you really do have to proceed with any type of important agreement or contractual obligation. If you can move those things, I would. It would just suit you better if you did it that way. So let's get into a 12-sign forecast for this energy. Check your rising sign most predominantly, but also your sun. Your rising sign is going to be the most direct expression of this energy. Besides all of the general influences that I just mentioned to you, I'm going to talk to you specifically about which houses Mercury affects through its association to Gemini and Virgo. So we'll talk about the areas of life that will give you additional places to look for the influence of Mercury retrograde. All right. So for Aries, for you, Gemini occupies your 3rd house and Virgo is in your 6th house. So this is all the classical significations that I just mentioned in the general forecast. So make sure you paid attention to the general forecast if you didn't watch that and if you skipped ahead. But other things to note would be relearning skills that you maybe dropped off in the past and applying them in a new way. Going back to visit home to reconnect with extended family, or having to find yourself revisiting a place that you've been before in the past. That can be Mercury retrograde energy in the 3rd house, very directly. Something about this will cause you to change your perspective and beliefs around your self-esteem and how you make money when Mercury makes its way into Taurus later on. This can also affect your work plan, schedule, routine, health, and fitness as well. I'm not saying anything's going to happen to your health. I'm just saying your schedule might need to change as it relates to some of those things, because Mercury will also affect Virgo, which is your 6th house. More realistically, though, this will probably look like projects needing to change, work timelines not working out the way that everyone thought they would originally. So that's a very common expression of Mercury retrograde affecting the 6th house. So for Taurus, Mercury retrograde is in your 2nd house, and it also affects your 5th house by association to Virgo. What this energy is all about is having to revise your plans around finances, having to change the way that you make money, choosing to release a contract related to your finances, having to revisit old lessons around self-esteem, the way that you dress, the way that you eat, the way you relate to your body. Or this could also be about, I lost my thought, and it's because Mercury is retrograde. Making a purchase, there it is, sorry. Making a purchase that you come later to regret. Maybe that's a big purchase. Maybe it's a small purchase, but having to return some things that you bought. That could be part of the Mercury retrograde energy in the 2nd house. This could also mean like buying something or acquiring something and then losing it. That's another expression of this energy as well. Ultimately, by the time Mercury retrogrades back into your 1st house of Taurus, this will help you to understand what's really important to you and revisit how you think about things and choose yourself and prioritize your own energy in this game. Other topics that might be affected because of the 5th house energy would be your children, your hobbies, your personal businesses or entrepreneurial efforts, romantic relations, and the way that you spend your free time for fun. So you might change your mind about some of those things. You might have experiences where you have to revisit the past to rework some plans related to any or all of those things. Gemini, for you, Mercury retrograde is in your 1st house, Gemini. So this is about rethinking the way that you see the world, breaking agreements and plans that you thought you were going to keep, changing your mind about stuff in general. Big ideas that help you identify who you are and create a sense of self could be in the process of being reworked at this time. And as Mercury will retrograde back into your 12th house of Taurus, this is going to be about reflecting on the past to do further release and surrender, and understanding what is really most important and valuable to you. Mercury retrograde will also activate your 4th house of Virgo, and so you might see mishaps or issues, miscommunications with home, family, people that are in the house with you, or property that you manage, and contractual agreements around those things could be affected by this energy as well. For Cancer, Mercury is retrograding in your 12th house, Gemini, and so this is going to be about revisiting the past to understand what you need to let go of, particularly as it relates to patterns of self-sabotage, escapism, addiction, those sorts of behaviors. This could be that you are taking a trip, retreat, or vacation and your travel gets interrupted. This could be revisiting old spiritual practices that you've let go of. And then as it retrogrades into your 11th house of Taurus, this is going to help you understand what's most important to you when it comes to your friendships and networks that you connect with. And you'll get a great sense of internal and intrinsic reward if you process these things and allow yourself to rework your ideas about the past appropriately at this time. It also affects your 3rd house, Virgo, by association. And so the 3rd house is everything having to do with courses and things that you study and skills that you use, your ideas, your mindset, the way that you communicate with other people. It's your siblings, it's your extended family. So you might also find that you are revisiting and reconnecting with some of those people, old neighborhoods and communities that you go back to. It could be about studying something that you dropped off in the past and now reapplying it, picking it back up. This could also be communicating, unfortunately, with some mishaps and needing to kind of recorrect and fix some of those things. That could also be what comes up with this energy. Alrighty, so for Leo, Mercury retrograde is happening in your 11th house and then back into your 10th house. So what this could be about is revisiting old friendships, old people that you haven't connected with in a long time, or old groups that you used to associate with that maybe you didn't for a while and now you're returning to those things, and understanding the way in which it could help propel you forward in your career, and understanding the way in which it helps you identify what's most important to you and what you value most when it comes to your career and public reputation. So even the groups and friends that you associate with affect your public reputation, even if it's outside of career. This could also mean it's time to kind of release and let go of agreements that you would have made with a group or friendships. Maybe it's deciding to have a friendship breakup. It could be that sort of thing. By association to Virgo, this also impacts your 2nd house. So that's your self-esteem, your self-worth, your relationship to food, your relationship to money, how you make money. You could be changing any or all of those things, or noticing some type of pattern interruptions there where you're going to have to rethink about some of your relationship to those things. So that's what I see coming up for Leo. Now for Virgo, Mercury is retrograding in your 10th house back into your 9th house. This is about your career and public reputation. So maybe you have a miscommunication or disagreement with a boss, a figure of authority, or you decide to let go of a previous job. You have to move in a new direction. There are delays. Maybe a role that you thought you were going to get is no longer the case. Maybe you were deciding that you were going to retire and then you've delayed it, or maybe you have been wanting to, but you won't be able to yet in terms of retirement. That could be an energy that comes up here. Maybe this is about wanting to get away from work and planning a trip, but having that get interrupted and the schedule influenced, because when Mercury gets into your 9th house, that's more about travel and adventure and exploration. It's also about publishing, so maybe this is about reworking contracts related to a career in publishing or law. By association, Virgo, this also affects your 1st house. So this is something that comes up that's going to help you reframe your identity and perspective and cause you to reevaluate the way that you see things in the world and the way that you show up. It could be challenging to kind of let go of things that you were kind of closely associating with your ego and self-concept, but that's what this Mercury retrograde is going to challenge you to do. For Libra, Mercury retrograde is happening in your 9th house and then back into Taurus in your 8th house. This is probably most classically about travel interruptions. If you were planning a trip, those things could get disrupted a little bit. It could be going back to school to study something that you didn't complete before. It could be reconnecting with a teacher from the past. It could be deciding to let go of an agreement with one of those institutions or people. This could be about also needing to figure out how to finance and invest in a school or educational experience. or maybe an issue related to law and lawsuits. And this could be also about marriage. Actually, the ninth house, in a sense, is about commitment. And so when Mercury retrogrades into the eighth house, you might need to be reworking documents related to lawsuits, related to marriage, related to school or financing, any of those things that could come up, because that eighth house is about that financial energy as well. So that's what I see for Libra, but also this is going to affect your 12th house by association to Virgo. So this could be something where you're kind of revisiting the past and kind of studying your subconscious motivations behind any and all of the things that manifest around this time as a result of this energy. So for Scorpio, this energy for you is happening in your 8th house, and it will Mercury will retrograde back into your 7th house. So this might be about needing to figure out contractual agreements that you have with a partner, whether that's your partner, spouse, ex, or business partner, right? This could be about figuring out financial agreements between you and another person. This could be about having to deal with insurance payouts or investments, fines, taxes, fees. Maybe you get a bill that you forgot about, a debt that was unpaid that you weren't aware of. The IRS comes knocking at your door, that could be sort of what you see with Mercury retrograde here. And then as it goes into your 7th house, it's going to cause you to maybe reconsider some things about your partnership. And that could also influence you to have some experience where past partnerships come back around. You might get a hello text from an ex. By association to Virgo, this will also light up your 11th house. It will have you thinking about your friendships, networks, and people that you associate with. This could also be like professional networks, but just your friends in general as well. Revisiting agreements that you've made with those people, deciding to release some of those things, or reconnecting with people from your past that you haven't seen in a while. For Sagittarius, this energy is in your 7th house, and Mercury will then retrograde back into your 6th house. So this is a lot about rethinking partnerships from the past, maybe just to process some of those things, think about some of those things in a new way. This could be about agreements that you've made in partnership, especially if it has anything to do with a business partnership, but also a romantic partnership, personal relationship at all, and the way that it affects your reputation and your career trajectory. Or I should say your career trajectory. You might be rethinking those things that you agreed to with another person, and saying maybe that doesn't suit you so well anymore, or it needs to be modified in a certain sense. Now, this could also be very business related, because as Mercury moves into your 6th house, that's the house of projects and collaboration and work that you do with other people, as well as routines and schedules that you maintain. So a close one-to-one relationship that you have in a business or professional sense might necessitate that certain things get changed around with your projects or your role or your work. And so that would kind of flip your schedule in a way that you didn't predict. That could be something that happens with this energy. For Capricorn, Mercury is in your 6th house and then later retrograding back into your 5th house. This is all about revisiting past patterns and behaviors related to health and fitness, schedules and routines, the way that you spend your time, as well as work and the projects you collaborate with other people on. So this could be about revisiting old health habits, trying to start new health habits. You could struggle to do that right now if you start it with Mercury retrograde, and then it could cause you to have a hard time learning new skills related to new health and fitness routines, any kind of routine or schedule that you try to start around this time. Unless you're a Mercury retrograde person, you might not be able to carry through with it by the time Mercury's direct. So just consider the impact of that. This could also be about your work and timelines and relationships to co-workers and direct reports. You might have some project delays or things that need to be reworked there. Later, when Mercury retrogrades into your 5th house, this is going to be about visiting your children, reconnecting with romantic partners from the past, revisiting hobbies and things that you used to like to do for fun that maybe have since dropped off, and reconnecting with those things. So that's actually a pretty positive energy, but in some senses it could mean the ending of certain agreements that you've made for a business that you might run, or in a romantic sense. There could be situations that arise that cause you to need to rework some of the agreements you make with other people in that sense. Mercury retrograde is also going to light up your 9th house. So this could be about interruptions or delays when it comes to trips that you take, travel. It could be about studying something that you used to study, but maybe have always wanted to and finally getting around to it. Revisiting old spiritual beliefs from the past and sort of reconnecting with those ideas and understanding what you want to pull forward into the future. So for Aquarius, Mercury retrograde for you is happening in your 5th house and then back into your 4th house. This is a little bit more of a beneficial energy, at least at first, when Mercury is retrograding in your 5th house, because this could be about reconnecting with old passions, old romantic partners, children if you have them, getting to revisit, connect with those people. Returning to spending your time in a way that you enjoy. In some sense, it could mean that you might not have the time that you want to connect with your hobbies and passions, but really I think this is about returning to something that used to bring you joy in the past so that you can learn to step into your authenticity more in that way. And then later when Mercury retrogrades into your 4th house, you might notice some miscommunications or disagreements with your family or the people in your home. This could be about revisiting a place that you used to live. It could be about issues with contractual agreements for property that you have, but ultimately this could be about, going back to see parents or visiting a place from the past later when Mercury retrogrades back into Taurus. It will also light up your 8th house, Virgo, so this could again be about financial and contractual agreements, especially if it's requiring a loan, investment, mortgage, anything like that. Could be inheritances when it comes to maybe family members or situations that have happened in the past, especially if someone has died recently, that kind of thing could be emerging with this Mercury retrograde, having some type of conflict over the money that gets passed down. That could sort of be a situation there. All right, so for Pisces, this energy for you, Mercury is retrograding in your 4th house and then back into your 3rd house of Taurus. So this is about maybe going to see parents, revisiting family, reconnecting with family. It could be returning home to a place you haven't been in a while. It could be about thinking about the past, especially when it has to do with your family and ancestral trauma. It could have to do with property, issues with contractual agreements related to properties that you manage or own. And then later when Mercury moves into your 3rd house, this could be about kind of interruptions, delays, or issues with cars that you're trying to purchase, cars that you already own, travel delays with short trips that you're taking. Could be about old skills applied in new ways, studying something that you let drop off before that you're really interested in picking back up again, reconnecting with neighbors, your neighborhood, reconnecting with extended family or siblings. That's it. That was all 12 signs. So that's Mercury retrograde in Gemini and Taurus. Again, I said it will end on June 3rd. It'll be about another week or two before Mercury exits its shadow period. So the shadow period is when Mercury's gaining speed and moving through the degrees that it had previously transited as it was going retrograde. So Mercury will be free and clear by the middle of June, and so things will really pick up speed again, and you shouldn't notice too many retrograde effects after mid-June. But this one I don't think should be too challenging. It's not making any hard aspects or anything like that. So again, it's really about changing our minds and perspectives in a way that we can make tangible real world shifts in our life that are needed. So I choose to see these times as beneficial, and I think if you adopt that mindset, you'll see the way in which things are always working out for you. Thanks for watching.